2, 1.
Good afternoon. My name is Marla McGinnis, and I will be your moderator for today's wildfire media availability. Joining us today are the Honorable Tim Houston, Premier of Nova Scotia, Scott Tingley, Manager of Forest Protection with the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables, Dave Rockwood, Public Information Officer, Shelburne, Department of Natural Resources and Renewables, Dave Steeves, Public Information Officer, Tantallon, Department of Natural Resources and Renewables, Bill Lawler, Atlantic Director of Government and Strategic Relations with the Canadian Red Cross, Chief Superintendent Sue Black with the RCMP, Erica Fleck, Director of Emergency Management with HRM, and joining us for questions only is Bob Robichaud, Warning Preparedness Meteorologist, Environment and Climate Change Canada. We'll begin with the Premier's opening remarks. Go ahead, Premier.
Thanks, Marla. Good afternoon, everyone. The serious situation in Nova Scotia continues, and certainly the last few days touring the damage, meeting with Nova Scotians that have been impacted and those on the front lines of fighting these fires. It's really been heartbreaking. There's definitely a lot of helplessness out there across the province right now, and to be honest, in many ways, I feel that too. But I can't thank those that are fighting the fires and supporting our communities enough. And we as a province are and will continue to do everything we possibly can. We will always want to do more. We'll never be enough. We'll always want to do more. But when so many people are struggling, we want to do more. But first, let me say that if you need help that you're not getting, please reach out, and we will do the very best we can to help, whether that's needing a place to stay, needing a hot meal at comfort centers in various areas, or even needing a pair of soccer cleats so your daughter can escape the nightmare for a few hours and go to her soccer game. Whatever it is, please reach out. I can't promise that we will be able to do everything, but we will do everything we can. That's my promise for sure. And second, I want to say we're in a crisis in the province, and we want and we need, and we will take all the support we can get. We're in this together, and the province and the municipalities that are impacted are doing everything within their power to combat the fires and to meet the needs of our people. And here are just some of the things that are happening. All emergency services are activated and are being used to fight and contain the fires to the extent that is possible with human intervention. They're evacuating residents safely. The evacuation process was very smooth, and it was a very, very significant exercise. Right now, they're recovering pets, and they're protecting wildlife, and they're generally safeguarding the public and structures as best they can. We have been in constant contact with the other provinces through our national network and have received additional resources from those provinces who are able to help. Today, right now, we have 8 water bombers from New Brunswick in the Shelburne and Barrington area. Let me say that again. 8 water bombers in the Shelburne area from New Brunswick. Thank you, Premier Higgs. We have 3 water bombers from Newfoundland in the province as well. We have personnel from PEI. We have received hoses from Ontario. We have many provinces who are stepping up to help, and I want to thank Premier Fury, Premier King, and my colleagues across the country for their efforts to help, for sure. We have made contacts with officials from the northeast states to seek their assistance with resources to fight the fires. They've helped during Fiona, and they're willing to help again, and we've made that ask, and those discussions are taking place. We're providing short-term assistance for urgent needs like food and accommodation in the form of $500 to every household that's been displaced. That's happening right now through the Red Cross. You can reach out to the Red Cross and we'll help with that. We have mental health supports at comfort centers and across the province for anyone in need. There's significant emotional trauma and financial trauma that's happening in our province right now. We're reaching out to the universities to find capacity in dorms for temporary accommodations. If you are displaced and in need of accommodations, please use the contact 211 center. They're coordinating finding placements. Unprecedented resources are being used because these fires are unprecedented, but the effort that's going into the response is significant. And of course, in an effort to protect the resources that are fighting the fires, we have banned all travel and activities in the woods, and we have in place province-wide burn bans. These are significant steps, and I just ask people to respect both of those steps so that we can mitigate risk and protect the resources that are fighting the fires. But speaking of the bans, yesterday the fire ban, the burn ban. Yesterday I told you there were 6 burns overnight. There had been 6 burns the overnight before. Last night, at least 8. At least 8 more reckless people chose to burn. I do not know what they're thinking. I just don't get it with what's happening in this province right now. And I just want to say that effective immediately, anyone who burns in this province, anyone who disrespects the province-wide burn ban, can be subject to a $25,000 fine. And if that doesn't work and we're still in this situation, then we'll do what we need to do to increase that. The forests are simply too dry. The conditions are too volatile. We can't accept any more risk of additional fires. We have uncontrolled fires in this province right now. We have a number of fires as well that are considered under control, but still burning in the province. We can't take any more risk. So I just want to say that for those of you who have been evacuated, your needs right now are really immeasurable. You're living everyone's nightmare. And I know that you need the support from your government from all levels. We know that we need to be flexible in terms of the support, and we want to fill any gaps as they arise. But we need to know about them, and we also know that we can't do it alone. So I do want to speak briefly about our, the federal partnership here. The Prime Minister has told me time and time again that he will be there. The federal government will be there for Nova Scotians. We need them to be there for Nova Scotians. We have made the ask. Over the last few days, there have been several requests of the federal government. And I want to thank the federal government. They were able to send us support in the form of Coast Guard support to the Shelburne area. We have applied for support under the Disaster Financial Assistance Program. I'm sure that will be forthcoming. We asked for water bombers early on in the process, and were initially told by a minister's office that the province that they couldn't provide any, but the province could look at renting some from a private company, which of course we're exploring as well. So those discussions have been ongoing, but we put them together today in one formal central place. Earlier today, I sent the Prime Minister a request for a comprehensive support package. And I just want to share with Nova Scotians that it includes military firefighters, particularly for when the fire reaches a sustained attack stage, as we have in some situations in the province, but certainly not all. The Shelburne fire is a breathtaking fire for sure. It's huge. We've asked for ignition specialist personnel and ignition equipment, which could be useful for backburning and stuff. We've asked for firefighting foam, additional firefighting supplies and equipment. We've asked for 12 4x4 trucks, 4 helicopters, intermediate or above, but those that are certified to drop water. Financial support for modular housing for those who have lost homes due to the fires. Funding for repairs and restoration, a commitment to match any Red Cross donations. We've asked for skilled trades personnel from the military, other federal agencies and departments and special exemptions to get temporary foreign laborers in to help build without the bureaucracy. This is a time for action. We've asked for a temporary leave benefit that would provide wage replacement to support those who are unable to work right now. The list of asks is significant. We know that. The federal government has our asks. They know what we need. They've seen the pictures. They've seen the video. They've had the discussions with people working for the province at the elected level and other levels as well. But I would say this, the reality is we don't know all of the resources that the federal government has at their disposal, but they do. So now isn't the time to wait and see, wait for Nova Scotia to ask this specific question or this specific. No, there's not the time for that. It's time to pitch in with whatever you have. If you have more resources that we may not be aware of or that you can think could help in any way, then we just ask, please send them to Nova Scotia. We need, Nova Scotia needs the help right now. We gladly accept it, we'll gladly deploy it, and we want to work together to get Nova Scotians through this. So significant fires in this province. We need some weather. we need to pray for rain, to pray for Nova Scotia. But thank you for that. And I'll turn it over to the other officials. Thank you, Marla.
Thank you, Premier. Our next update will come from Scott Tingley. Scott is the Manager of Forest Protection with the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, thank you, Marla. Thank you, Premier. Provincial fire status update for today. We're up to 196 fires for the season. So we did have some new starts, as the Premier mentioned yesterday. We have currently 14 active fires across the province, and 3 of those are out of control priority fires. We're going to get specific updates from Dave Steeves and Dave Rockwood on those fires, so I'll defer to them. We've burned approximately 19,000 hectares of forest across the province so far this year, and we expect that to likely grow, particularly with the Barrington fire. We deployed more Department of Natural Resources firefighters again today. They were into Shubenacadie at the Provincial Wildfire Coordination Center to get briefed, and they're out on the fire line this afternoon. As the Premier mentioned, we have inbound resources again later this week from the USA, and then early next week. We continue to assess all those offers of support, as the Premier mentioned, from the federal government, the military resources. We've been getting lots of offers from volunteers, community members, and municipalities, Halifax Regional Municipality, Fire and Emergency. So we've spent a lot of energy at the Provincial Wildfire Coordination Center today, coordinating those resources with the resource requests that are coming from those fires. So we're seeing reinforcements coming in. It's very encouraging to all the hardworking people that are already out in the field. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave Rockwood, who's going to provide an update to the Barrington fire. So.
Dave Rockwood is the Public Information Officer for Shelburne with the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. Go ahead, Dave.
Fire today, the most recent size we have is 17,602 hectares. This fire is still categorized as out of control, so that means it is still growing. Individuals on site. We have a total of 8 802 aircrafts out of New Brunswick that are on site attacking the fire quite heavily today. They're using retardant drops, which is typically more useful than water in this circumstance. We have a number of heavy equipment. We're creating fire line around the fire in the southwest section near Barrington Lake, and then as well down towards the Beaver Dam area, trying to protect some critical infrastructure, the highways and telecommunications, and then again, of course, our communities. So we've got 7 pieces of 7 dozers, 3 excavators, 4 feller bunchers on site as well working, and a whole host of volunteer fire departments from the local area as we need them. As we unfortunately have gotten into a situation where today we have announced that we are confident that unfortunately we have lost around 50 residents in the area, both primary and secondary residents. We don't have the specifics on locations on those, but we're pretty confident with those numbers, unfortunately. I will also speak to the Pubnico fire, which is under my watch here within our fire complex down here in the west. The Pubnico fire is at 163 hectares. It is still classed as out of control. However, we have not seen any significant growth on that fire today. We have 5 wildland firefighters out of PEI that are on that site today, and we're looking at about 20 natural resources and renewables individuals plus 3 helicopters that are assisting in that operation down there.
Okay, thank you very much, Dave. Next, we'll go to Dave Steeves. Dave is the Public Information Officer for Tantallon with the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. Go ahead, Dave.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me. I'd like to extend my gratitude for the fine working relationship that we've been fortunate enough to have with HRM Fire. This has truly been a unified situation given the intense situation that we're in and the amount of urban interface that our firefighters are facing. So my thanks to my colleagues in the field. Unfortunately, yesterday we had very good fire weather and relatively strong winds. So we did forecast some relatively erratic fire behavior for yesterday. Because of that, our area actually grew a bit. So we are now up to 837 hectares in size. So that's about a 49 hectare increase. Some of that is due to the erratic fire behavior that we did have, but we also have had the opportunity to increase the accuracy of a lot of our mapping capabilities. So the more accurate we get, the more detail we can put into it, the closer we can get for a really bang on measurement. So today, our on-site resources that we have available, we've got 56 government firefighters. That's between the Department of Natural Resources and Renewables and our counterparts at PEI. So thank you to the PEI government for sending some firefighters our way. We greatly appreciate it. We've got 100 HRM firefighters. That's both career and volunteer. We've got 9 firefighters from the Department of Natural Defense, as well as 36 apparatus on site. Our air resources, we have 3 helicopters and 1 CL-415 who are still actively engaging the fire. The weather that we have for today, unfortunately, is not a good news story. We have winds sustained at 15, gusting to 25, with a relative humidity of 20%. As well as a temperature of 25. So the sticky part regarding that situation is when your relative humidity level is lower than the temperatures, we get into a condition of what we call crossover. And crossover is an indicator of extreme fire behavior. And that is evident in some of the areas that our firefighters are being tasked today. The fine fuel moisture content of the fuels in the area, and that basically means like your leaves, your twigs, the really small fuels is extremely dry. So the fact that we have large spread rates today makes it very dangerous for the folks in the field. Our objectives for this operational period was we were to continue to work on structure protection with our counterparts at Halifax Fire. We are responding to every call of hot spots or small flare-ups that come in, and we have been successful in that part. But the hours of concern are quickly approaching us, so we will be diligent in keeping an eye on operations in the field at this point to ensure every call that does come in that the firefighters are addressing everything in the safest possible manner. Also, we do have heavy machinery on site, and they are building what we call dozer guards. So at strategic locations laid out by our operations division, we are putting in dozer guards. And basically what that means is they're going in, they're removing all of the vegetation right down to the basic mineral soil and creating a bare swath in the forest floor. And basically this is what we refer to in the wildland environment as indirect attack. The hopes are that this creates a fire break. So when the fire burns up to this dozer break, if there's no fuels to be consumed, the fire will burn itself out. So like I said, we are coming upon the hours of concern here before too much longer. So we will be keeping a very close eye on things, how we're going to proceed from this point on.
Thank you very much, Dave. Next, we'll go to Bill Lawler with the Canadian Red Cross. Go ahead, Bill.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Canadian Red Cross remains very active throughout the impacted areas in cooperation with multiple departments and agencies within the Nova Scotia government. And I would like to commend both Premier Houston, your colleagues, your ministers, and all of the civil service who have been outstanding with their resolve towards fighting these efforts and supporting those who have been impacted, displaced in the various shelters that we are also supporting. And literally since Sunday, it has been full steam ahead, and we greatly appreciate the collaboration and support. As you know, we opened the registrations yesterday at the request of the province of Nova Scotia to provide the support, the $500 per eligible household for those who were ordered to evacuate. We are anticipating at this time and certainly subject to change with the behavior of the fires, as you've just heard in the overview. Approximately 7,000 households would be eligible for this. Again, subject to change depending on the fire behavior. But as of now, we have just over 4,000 households who have registered with the Canadian Red Cross. So we'll be working with those individual households to determine and verify their location, with being within the eligible zones of these evacuations. And we anticipate the distribution of those funds to begin very soon, if not tomorrow, by the next day at the very latest. I also want to give a shout out to our teams who have been providing support to some of the areas of evacuation. We've had some long-term care facilities that have been required to evacuate, and our personnel have been able to provide over 180 pieces of equipment. This would be mattresses and other types of equipment for seniors who need to be relocated to an alternate facility. And they've been doing that since May 29th, and will continue to do that upon request of any other potential long-term care facilities that may require evacuations. We've also today launched a financial appeal in support of the situation within Nova Scotia. Also in New Brunswick, but of course, the primary focus is in Nova Scotia, given the volume of evacuations and the damage assessments that we know to date. So that appeal did launch officially today. And we'll continue to reach out to those who have looked to us to provide support, be that through the corporate sector or individuals looking to contribute financially. And we will also work with other organizations who are raising funds as well to ensure that we do not duplicate efforts, but in fact, we work together to collaborate and make sure that any gaps are identified and filled through a collaborative approach. I'll stop there, but just to advise that we're certainly ready to continue the support for the coming weeks as long as it's needed by the province of Nova Scotia.
Thank you very much, Bill. Our next update will come from Chief Superintendent Sue Black with the RCMP. Go ahead.
Thank you, Marla, and good afternoon to my fellow Nova Scotians. I'm Chief Superintendent Sue Black, the Criminal Operations Officer for the Nova Scotia RCMP. Je suis la surintendante principale Sue Black, l'officière responsable des enquêtes criminelles de la GRC de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Merci de m'accorder quelques minutes pour vous fournir une mise à jour sur notre réponse aux incendies de forêt. Beginning in Shelburne County, our officers continue to work with our partner agencies to promote the safety of all, particularly with regard to evacuations and road closures. We know this is a very difficult time for those who must evacuate, but please follow the mandatory orders and officers' directions. It's the safest thing you can do. To date, over 2,350 homes and roughly 5,000 people have been evacuated across Shelburne County. Our officers are conducting proactive patrols in the evacuated communities to keep your communities safe. For a list of all road closures in Shelburne County, please consult the Nova Scotia 511 website. Moving on to the fire in the Tantallon area, our primary focus is on controlling access to and patrolling the evacuated areas to ensure the safety of all. With regard to the wildfire in Pubnico, our officers continue to maintain communication with officials at the scene, and should our assistance be required, we will respond accordingly. En français maintenant, en commençant par le comté de Shelburne, nos agents continuent de travailler avec nos agences partenaires pour promouvoir la sécurité de tous, en particulier en ce qui concerne les évacuations et les fermetures de routes. Nous savons que c'est un moment très difficile pour ceux qui doivent évacuer, excusez-moi, mais s'il vous plaît, suivez les ordres obligatoires et les directives des agents. C'est la chose la plus sûre que vous pouvez faire. À ce jour, plus de 2350 maisons et environ 5000 personnes ont été évacuées dans le comté de Shelburne. Nos agents effectuent des patrouilles proactives dans les communautés évacuées pour assurer la sécurité de tous. Pour obtenir une liste de toutes les fermetures de route dans le comté de Shelburne, consultez le site web 511 de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Pour l'incendie dans la région de Tantallon, notre objectif principal est de contrôler l'accès aux zones évacuées et d'effectuer des patrouilles afin d'assurer la sécurité de tous. En ce qui concerne l'incendie de forêt à Pubnico, nos agents restent en communication avec les officiels sur place et si notre aide est requise, nous interviendrons comme il faut. I'd like to take a moment to say thank you to everyone for cooperating with mandatory evacuations. As a reminder, please avoid all evacuated communities to allow firefighters and other first responders to do their work safely. I just want to note that I'm particularly proud of our police officers on those checkpoints because many of them have been evacuated from their homes as well. So they're also curious about how their homes are doing. So please understand their work and stay away from those zones. For those who had pets left behind, please contact the SPCA at 902-835-4798. We're asking residents not to show up at checkpoints to retrieve their pets. In addition, airspace and waterways around the fires are being used by helicopters and water bombers to fight the fires. Please keep your drone on the ground and your boat docked. Otherwise, you may be impeding firefighting efforts, and we want all the fires contained as soon as possible. In Shelburne County specifically, there are many flight paths being used to access the fire, and lake and ocean waters are being used by water bombers. J'aimerais prendre un moment pour remercier tout le monde d'avoir coopéré avec aux évacuations obligatoires. Je vous rappelle que vous devez éviter toutes les communautés évacuées pour permettre aux pompiers et aux autres premiers intervenants de faire leur travail en toute sécurité. Je suis particulièrement fière de nos membres qui sont sur la ligne, sur les checkpoints. Eux aussi, ils ont été évacués de leur maison, certains d'entre eux, et je suis tellement fière d'eux parce qu'ils sont là pour vous. Pour ceux qui ont dû laisser les animaux derrière eux, veuillez contacter la SPCA au 902-835-4798. Nous demandons aux résidents de ne se pas présenter au point de contrôle pour récupérer leurs animaux. L'espace aérien et les cours d'eau autour des incendies sont utilisés par les hélicoptères et les bombardiers d'eau pour lutter contre les incendies. S'il vous plaît, gardez vos drones au sol et vos bateaux au quai. Sinon, vous risquez de nuire aux efforts de lutte contre les incendies et nous voulons tous que les incendies soient maîtrisés le plus rapidement possible. Dans le comté de Shelburne en particulier, de nombreuses trajectoires de vol sont utilisées pour accéder au feu et les eaux et lacs de l'océan sont utilisés par les bombardiers d'eau. Un rappel que le 911 est réservé aux cas de menace immédiate pour la santé, la sécurité ou la propriété. Ne composez le 911 que si vous avez une urgence et en cas d'un besoin d'aide immédiate. Si votre problème n'est pas une urgence, contactez le détachement local de la GRC ou la police locale. Pour obtenir des informations sur l'interdiction des feux dans la province, veuillez contacter le ministère des Ressources naturelles et renouvelables de la Nouvelle-Écosse. Enfin, nous continuons à mettre en garde les Néo-Écossais contre les escroqueries liées à l'aide financière et à la collecte de fonds pour les incendies de forêt. Si vous recevez un message texte, un courriel ou un appel téléphonique que quelqu'un vous demandant de l'argent, il s'agit probablement d'une escroquerie. L'aide financière et les collectes de fonds légitimes liées aux incendies de forêt sont gérées par la Croix-Rouge canadienne. Vous pouvez joindre la Croix-Rouge canadienne au 1-800-863-6582. Please remember that 911 is reserved for instances of immediate threat to health, safety, or property. Please only call 911 if you have an emergency and need immediate assistance. If your issue is not an emergency, please contact your local RCMP detachment or local police. For information on the province's fire ban, contact the Nova Scotia Department of Natural Resources and Renewables. Lastly, and as I said in French, but this breaks my heart to have to tell you, but we continue to warn Nova Scotians of scams in relation to wildfire, financial relief, and fundraising. If you receive a text message, email, or phone call from someone looking for money, it's likely a scam. Legitimate wildfire relief and fundraising is being administered by the Canadian Red Cross, and you can reach them by calling 1-800-863-6582. Thank you.
Thank you for that update. Our final update will come from Erica Fleck, the Director of Emergency Management for the Halifax Regional Municipality. Go ahead, Erica.
Thanks very much, Marla. Good afternoon, everybody. I just want to say on behalf of HRM, we have a tremendous relationship with our partners at DNRR. So as Dave and Scott, already talked to, the relationship on the ground and the unified command is just stellar. They're looking after all operational aspects with regards to the fire. And here in the EOC, we're focusing. We've done a bit of a pivot. We're now looking at the recovery efforts and how to get residents back, how to do that safely, and working with our partners, RCMP, HRP, Nova Scotia Power, Halifax Water, all of everybody. It's a big team effort, obviously, at this point. We're again praying for the weather to continue. It's not really in our favor right now, as everybody's alluded to, but we are hoping. Sorry, I'm tired. That everything is turning out. We are getting there slowly. The thing we'd like to stress today is we have identified all of the homes that are destroyed. We're trying to get in contact with the residents. We have provided that impacted zone where the destruction is to media. So we would continue to ask residents to contact 311 online. The link is there. It takes about 10 seconds to register, or you can call 311. And then we are talking to the residents and providing the supports that we can, linking up with other resources for the affected individuals. Again, as the Premier said, the fact that HRM alone responded to 8 burn ban fires last night is just ridiculous at this point. And as the Mayor stated earlier this afternoon, it's zero tolerance. We had additional fires last night throughout HRM. That certainly didn't help. One of them is still ongoing. Luckily, the other ones, were put out quite quickly, but the weather is against us right now. And I can't stress enough, again, as the Premier said, that people need to pay attention, and there is zero tolerance in HRM, as I'm sure province-wide, but we're hurting each other right now, and that needs to stop.
Thank you. That's an important message. We'll now open the floor to media with questions. When I call on your name, please unmute yourself. We're going to follow the one question, one follow-up format. And please identify who your question is for, as we have a number of participants here with us today. We're going to start with John LaRoche with CBC. Go ahead, John.
Thanks, Marla. My question is for Scott Tingley, I believe. Scott, you made allusion to the fact that we were getting U.S. help. I don't remember the Premier talking about that. So can one of you please enlighten us as to what's coming from the Americans?
Yeah, thanks for the question, John. I can provide a little bit of detail. So response to all the offers for help is an ongoing assessment, but I can tell you that there are wildland firefighting crews coming up from our Northeast state partners starting on, and some of these details are still being worked out, either late Friday or Saturday. We'll be receiving the first wave, and it sounds like Monday we'll get another wave. So yeah, that's the details on the U.S. resources at this time. But like I said, it's an ongoing assessment. And I mentioned yesterday, it's been really heartwarming, actually, and overwhelming. All the support that is being offered. We really appreciate it, and we're putting a lot of energy into assessing those resources and tagging them up where they're most needed and are going to be most effective at those priority incidents.
John, do you have a follow-up question?
Sure. Premier, we've heard from a lot of people, or talked to a number of people in the Shelburne County area, and they were obviously pleading for help and thinking that it took a while to get that help. I just wondered if you could deal or talk to them specifically about the lag in requesting the help that you have requested, and just so. Not part of my question, but can you commit to giving us a list of that letter you would have sent the feds with the shopping list of things that we need? Because I can't write as fast as you speak.
Well, thank you. Look, this is an important question. So obviously these fires were developing very, very quickly. Sunday morning, we had no out of control fires in this province, and by Monday, we had 3 really. The Shelburne one has been going on a bit longer, and it was growing and growing. So look, we're constantly assessing the needs across the province. The firefighting teams at the expertise at DNRR is just incredible. I mean, we're fortunate to have that expertise in this province. So look, as the need was assessed, we asked for help. We responded to the needs. And look, I do want to say that I've heard some of the rumors that are being shared around, that somehow Nova Scotia was refusing people offering help. That's absolutely not true. Well, that's an absolutely ridiculous thing to say. It's not helpful at a time when we're in a crisis like this, and so many people are feeling so many emotions. For those that spread the rumors that Nova Scotia was turning down help, for those that spread the rumors that Nova Scotia hadn't asked for help, these are ongoing discussions. The fires are significant. The risk of fire across the province is significant. Officials have had ongoing discussions with counterparts at the municipalities. Those have been great relationships. Ongoing discussions with the federal government. There's a process there. I guess I kind of plead with the federal government to move quick. We've seen in the past sometimes where the process kind of trips up the actions of a response. We literally have things burning down here. We'll do the best we can with the grammar and the specific requests, but the need is obvious. So, but we'll get these fires under control. There's incredible resources being put to bear against those fires. It's an unprecedented response. They're unprecedented fires. They all happen very quickly and unfolded very quickly. But I want to assure all Nova Scotians, we could have other fires turn up in other situations as we are seeing in the province. But I want to assure all Nova Scotians that the federal government, the provincial government, the municipalities will work together to support them. And as Premier, I'm personally committed to providing the support to those that are displaced, but also to those that are on the front lines of fighting these fires. I've been spending time with them over the last couple of days, and it is gut-wrenching. The effort they're putting in, the emotions they're feeling. As was noted here, many people who respond to these fires are displaced themselves. So look, let's squash any ridiculous rumors that somehow this province was turning away help. Let's be frank. The province responded as quickly as it possibly could, and will continue to do so. Our only interest is the safety of Nova Scotians, nothing else.
Thank you. Our next question will come from Nicole Monroe with the Chronicle Herald. Go ahead, Nicole.
Thanks. My question's for the Premier, just kind of extending on Jean Laroche's question. I guess how many formal requests have been put into the government, and what has the response been? Has it been, like you mentioned, an ongoing process, or have they officially denied any of the requests that have come in?
I'm not aware of a denial of any requests. We have certain, we had at least one example where we were asking early on for air cover, water bomber supports, and some of the response was, well, we don't have it, but basically you can go and rent it, which of course we're happy to do. But so, look, everybody will try to be helpful, but there are degrees of helpfulness, and we would think that we'd try to be as helpful as we can. So, look, the discussions are ongoing. I can't state that categorically enough for anyone to suggest that somehow nobody in the province, nobody at Natural Resources, nobody in the firefighting service, nobody in the elected offices thought to pick up the phone and ask for help. That's an absolutely ridiculous thing to say. And it's a hurtful thing to post on social media for those that are evacuated, for those that are worried about the protection of their property, for those that are worried, about their pets. The list of worries people have is through the roof. And for those people for anyone to play on that, whether it's politically or socially or anything else, it's just an awful thing to do. The discussions between the municipalities and the province, ongoing. The discussions between the province and the federal government, ongoing. Everybody wants to do what they can and will do it as quickly as they can. And I certainly will do everything I can to support the firefighters and support those people that are directly impacted.
Nicole, do you have a follow-up question?
I do. I do have one for Scott Tingley. Speaking of the resources, looking looking at other provinces and the United States, a bit of a delay in the terms of who is coming from this state. So can you talk about some of the other formal requests that you may have put in with provinces and the states, and what may have come from those?
Yeah, so just a bit of a history, I guess, for the week on how the resourcing requests went. So Sunday, as the Premier mentioned, we already had the Barrington fire ongoing, and then Tantallon started. These were very quick moving fires. Situations evolve very quickly, and I believe it was Monday, and if not Monday, it was very, very early Tuesday morning that we started submitting the request to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre for additional wildland firefighting resources. Part of that request was a request for 100 firefighters, because by Monday we knew very well that we were into a long-term situation with a large fire. So nationally, I can say there's competition for resources. As everybody knows, Alberta particularly has had a very challenging year. The Northwest Territories was having a busy time as well, and we were actually at the time trying to support the national effort, and it had sent a crew the week previous to Tantallon starting up to the Northwest Territories after we had already had a busy spring leading up to this period. So in the discussions in requesting the crew, we also worked with the Northwest Territories to start getting our crew back. But as you can imagine, moving 20 people on planes back to Nova Scotia from the Northwest Territories in short notice is no easy feat. So we had people working very, very hard to work on that logistically. And then the requests have been ongoing all week. We've been reaching out through like I said, our mutual aid partners to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Centre, the Northeast Forest Fire Protection Commission. We have amazing relationships through these networks that allow us to mobilize really incredible numbers and types of resources very quickly. And it's amazing to think, that we can move. It might seem like a long time, but it's quite amazing to see the amount of aircraft and people that can be moving, within 24 to 40 hours of a request going in, and then they're arriving in the province. So yeah, there's a bit of a lag. It may seem, that crews coming in from the U.S., but there's a lot of planning and logistics that have to go into that. So that's a bit of the sequence of how it went this week.
Thank you, Scott. Next, we'll go to Lindsay Armstrong with CTV. Go ahead, Lindsay. Lindsay, are you there? Okay, we'll come back to Lindsay. We'll go to Brian Flynn next with All Nova Scotia. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks, Marla. Premier, I'm just wondering if you could sort of elaborate a bit. If there were ongoing discussions with the federal government over the last number of days, why then was a pretty exhaustive list submitted to the federal government today? What prompted you to do that?
I think, thank you, Brian, and I think Scott kind of spoke to this. So really, in the firefighting world, the needs are across the country. They pop up from time to time, and Scott was working through the mutual aid process. So look, people ask about the 20 firefighters that were out of province fighting another fire in another province. Of course, they were. That's the way it works. When somebody else has a need and we have resources, we send them and help out. Today, we have the need, and we're asking people to send resources to help out. So of course, we had firefighters that were in other areas supporting those that had need. But so the discussions through that network are ongoing. But we want to be very, very clear in the level of ask with the federal government. We may have Scott through the system asking for things. We have other, Minister Lord, Minister Rushton, other ministers having discussions with their counterparts at the federal level, talking about what is possible, what help can we get. We have volunteer organizations talking through their own national network about what is possible, what can we get. We have department deputy ministers. We have everybody focused on these fires, on supporting Nova Scotians. So we made the decision, of course, to put those things all together in one place so there's no confusion. And somebody reading that letter might say, oh, gee, they're asking for 4x4 vehicles. Well, I actually have some in my department, or D&D has this. So it's just an effort to put it together. But look, I can't stress enough how ridiculous I find the insinuations, on this call and on others that I'm hearing about, that somehow the folks fighting this fire weren't asking for help. These fires grew quickly. Very, very quickly. And they're very serious fires. And of course, we want help. We need help at this time. So we've made those asks. Those asks are known. And look at the response that's coming back. Eight water bombers fixed wing from New Brunswick. 3 from Newfoundland, firefighters coming from Prince Edward Island. I hear from premiers across the country wanting to help. And I know that organizations that are fighting this, our natural resources team, they're hearing from counterparts about what can they do, what resources can they have. So there's a very formal ask, there's a formal process. We go through that, but we also don't leave anything to chance. We are very focused on fighting these fires. The health and safety, the protection of Nova Scotians, the protection of property, the protection of our firefighters who are out there in incredibly stressful situations. That's what matters to us. That's what matters to our counterparts at the other levels of government, the municipalities and the federal government too. But so the letter is there. You can have the letter, you can look at the letter, but it won't be a surprise to anyone who's seen the pictures. It won't be a surprise to anyone who's seen the videos. It won't be a surprise to anyone who's a human being who can see the suffering that's happening to Nova Scotians right now, that we're looking for help. Nobody should be surprised by that. And if they can help wherever they're at in this country, or wherever they're at in New England or somewhere else, if they can help, we want their help. No questions asked. We want it.
Thank you, Premier. Brian, do you have a follow-up question?
I do. I'll move in a different direction. Actually, this is for Dave Rockwood. I think perhaps you can feel this one. I'm just wondering, looking at the map and looking at the direction the wind is traveling today, I'm just wondering if you could talk about what's happening, sort of the leading edge of that fire in Barrington Lake. In particular, I'm looking at sort of where it's expanded in the last day or so. I'm looking at communities like Gun and Cove, even Birchtown isn't, I guess, that far away. I'm just wondering what's happening in those areas, and how much danger is the fire now posing to structures in those areas?
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, the fire itself has definitely been very active in the Roseway community since yesterday, and as well as the Beaver Dam community. We are very fortunate that we have been able to. We're working on connecting the dots between the Barrington Lake and the other lake there to the just to the southeast of Barrington Lake, and we are creating good dozer guard there. That'll create a hopefully a safe break for us between Barrington and the fire. But the main areas that we're concerned of today are the Rosewood area, and to be very honest, we're presently in the process over this 10-hour operational period. We're doing a tactical withdrawal from our incident command post right now in the Churchover area, which is so we're being relocated just as a precaution over to the fire hall over in the next community right now. So we're concerned about it. It's still very active, very fast moving. We're at that, as Dave Steves had indicated earlier, we're at those crucial hours of the day right now. Wind is up, temperature is up, and the relative humidity is down. And this is when the fire can definitely take off on us. We've been dealing with multiple days of just constantly trying to chase this fire and steering our people out of the way and getting the public out of the way, and hence the large evacuation area here is to keep people safe. So we are concerned with the head fire on this. We've been seeing over the last few days 2 up to 300-foot flames on the head of this at times. We started out the day with lower intensity, but by afternoon, this thing has been getting up and rolling like a freight train.
Thank you, Dave. We're going to jump back now to Lindsay Armstrong with CTV. Lindsay was having mute issues. Lindsay, are you there now? Okay, not hearing Lindsay. We'll move on to Alex Cook with Global News. Go ahead, Alex.
Hi, my first question is for Dave Rockwood. Earlier today it was reported that the fire in Shelburne County was about 19,000 hectares, and I think you said earlier it was a bit more than 17,000. So has the fire shrunk, or is this, have you just kind of been mapping it better?
Yeah, so at the end of day yesterday, we had estimated to be around 19,000. So unfortunately, if this was a small fire, for example, our crews can just walk around, use a GPS, and get an exact size on it. This is covering such a large area, and the area it is, when this starts to get up and run, the smoke is so intense that even our aircraft can't get in front of this. They're having difficult time, so we're kind of having to draw lines and rely on nighttime infrared satellite readings, which provide us with heat signatures on the ground. And between a few different options, a few of these different methods, we're able to calculate the general size. So we were happy this morning that when we recalculated our size, we were down to the 17,000 area. Again, we're up to the 17,602 at this point. And I'd say since I've been in here in this session, we're further past that.
Thank you. Alex, do you have a follow-up question?
Yes, my next question is for Tim Houston. Does the province plan on getting its own fixed-wing water bomber fleet stationed in Nova Scotia? And would that have helped to get ahead of these fires before they threatened homes and businesses?
We'll have discussions about the resourcing of the natural resources team for sure as we move forward. I think in the early days of the fire, you have to understand on the fixed wing part as well. We did have helicopters up in the air. We did have fixed wing support from Newfoundland very, very quickly as these fires started to grow. And then I think the wind impeded them. So the conditions, I don't think I would second guess the response of the natural resource team right here. They've responded quickly, and they responded with aggressive resourcing of them. So we'll look at we will have those discussions. I think as a province, we've shown certainly under our government with tremendous support for our firefighting services, our volunteer fire departments. We've made grants available to them. We've put more financial support to our volunteer firefighting members across this province than has happened in a long time here. So we have great support and respect for our firefighters. We'll look at resourcing of natural resources, but I think these fires move very quickly under conditions that were very dangerous for fires, and that's why we have the burn ban in place now. That's why we're restricting movement in the woods so that we can kind of mitigate risk going forward. But the response has been unprecedented to fires in this province, but the fires themselves are unprecedented.
Thank you, Premier. Next, we'll go to Zane Woodford with the Halifax Examiner. Go ahead, Zane.
Thank you. My question's for Scott Tingley. Can you talk a bit about how you balance resources between this, really huge fire in Shelburne and the smaller fire with more of an urban interface in the Tantallon area?
Sure. Yeah, for sure. Thanks for the question, Zane. So we have incident command teams at both of these large instances, which are, in the example of Shelburne County, now 2 fires are being managed by one incident management team to increase the coordination of those resources. So we have the Provincial Wildfire Coordination Center up in Shubenacadie, and we're the provincial coordination team that helps identify the needs at both sites, and also accounting for everything else that's going on in the province. Like I said, we've got 14 active fires. Fortunately, 11 of those are small and under control, and that's because of the quick response and hard work of the staff that work in the local offices to keep those small. So across all of those fires, we're in constant communication at the Provincial Coordination Center with all those people leading those scenes and getting their resource needs, and then we do our best to balance provincially based on our provincial priorities. So obviously human life and safety are job number one, and then infrastructure and the natural resources. So we take that all into the equation, and unfortunately in the nature of emergency response, resources can become scarce as incidents scale up. And so we go into the prioritization exercises, and we put resources where we think they're going to be most needed and most effective. So.
Okay, thank you, Scott. Unfortunately, that is all the time we have today. I apologize to the reporters. We weren't able to.
Can I get a follow-up question though?
Sorry, Zane, we are actually out of time now. We have to let the participants get back to their work. We had a hard stop at 4. I apologize for that. Thank you to all of our participants for being here today. Thank you to everybody that's joined us, and continue to stay safe, please.